FSF PopCast live show.
We're on time.
We're on time even. This is scary. And I had to run and go get something and get back here in time because I lost the thing that I was thinging with earlier, and then I didn't have the thing. That's a whole lot of things, but you guys will get it. You'll be fine.
Oh, my.
Welcome to the FSF PopCast SideBar. Tonight, we're doing something a little bit different. We are talking about Disney's Star Wars movie. Now, so far, there has been 5 Disney Star Wars movies. There's been the 2 standalones, and we, of course, have the sequel trilogy. Now, there's a plethora of ideas out there. You boys and your things, you never grow up. I'm 12. Anyway, yeah, so there's 5 Star Wars movies out there. We're going to talk about them. See, did these movies hold up? What was our initial reaction to them? How do we feel about them now? John and I always say, if there's a problem with Star Wars, just wait, because what's the answer to Star Wars, John?
More Star Wars.
More Star Wars.
Yeah.
So we've gotten more Star Wars. Has more Star Wars fixed the issues of Star Wars? And so we're going to talk a little bit about all of that kind of stuff tonight. However, if you are expecting a Star Wars theory style discussion where we just crap on Kathleen Kennedy and all of Disney, you might be on the wrong. No, you're definitely on the wrong channel.
Yeah.
So, but stick around. You might learn something and realize that, as I told somebody on Instagram this morning, much like crying in D&D is a free action, so is compassion, and that's also free action. You should try using it. So, anyway, I'm lippy today. That's going to be a thing.
Does it feel like Monday to you?
Oh boy, does it ever feel like a Monday.
Whew.
Yeah, Monday came back with a vengeance and apparently hates me. But before we get too much farther, we want to say thank you to our show partners and our wonderful viewers like yourselves who help keep this show afloat. If it were not for a Bones Coffee Company, Idea Farm, which is formerly TCT, where fandom meets fashion, Eddie AI, who helps us make our shorts and our reels and the tiki-takis and all those fun things, and of course, Level Up Sabers, because sometimes you just need a lightsaber that's better than a stick. See right here, lightsaber. So, but anyway, yeah, it's Monday. It's been a week. It's been a January of Mondays, if we're being honest. It's still January. I'm not sure how it's still January, but it's still January. Granzer says, I thought it was Monday too. Don't you normally go live on? No, actually, we've been trying to do Mondays and Thursdays. John and I, John's not usually on for the Monday live. John and I like to get together on Thursdays and talk, ramble, and but whatever. Waiting for the East-West Shrine Bowl. Nice. And yeah, Monday's the live show. Thursdays are sidebars with just Tim and John. Yeah. So it's just the two of us. We get on here and we share our musings, our thoughts on different topics. And tonight that topic is Disney Star Wars. Yeah. And also we want to thank our partners over at Paramount for helping us see this. Freediver is new today on digital in this heart-pounding new documentary. World champion freediver Alexei Molchanov embarks on a daring quest to break 5 world records in a single year. Buy or rent Freediver on Fandango at home now, rated PG from Paramount Pictures. Now, here's the cool thing, kids and cadets. If you haven't already signed up at the Win Free Loot link down in the show notes down below, you could win a copy of this. You could also win a copy of some of the other cool offerings that have come from Paramount Pictures they've been sending to us to send to you guys. But you can't win if you don't sign up. You can't win if you don't play. So make sure to play the game, because you might not win today, but you could win in the future, because once you're signed up for good. Yeah, we're like bad luggage. You can't get rid of us.
Well, I mean, you can, but
Josh, no, don't give me ideas. Yeah, it's John's night, locked in the room talking to the internet. Absolutely.
Oh, yes.
I was hoping you guys review Saturn 3, that old movie. I want to hopefully watch that again soon.
I'm not familiar with that one.
I'm Bad Luggage and Glitter. Yeah, I can't get rid of either one of those. What if it's Bad Luggage covered in glitter? Ooh. That may even be worse.
And that's from my honeymoon. Anyway.
And the rest of tonight's shenanigans, although they don't know about it, will be brought to you by Dragon's Milk. So there we go. Let's go ahead and pop that open.
All right. Well, we know where Tim's going. To Happy Town.
Down the hatch and off into insanity we go. All right, so we have the slides set up, and we're going to run through these 5 movies. And I don't have them. The only way I put them in order was I don't even think I have them in. Maybe I have them in chronological order. I don't remember. I did this like 2 weeks ago, and I've slept since then. But there are no particular order of best to worst or anything like that, because as you'll see from my upcoming comments, that is definitely not the case. Let's see. Granzier says Saturn 3 of Kirk Douglas, Farrah Fawcett, Harvey Keitel. It's not great nor good movie, but the robot Hector is cool. Well, you have me at a robot named Hector.
Yeah. I'm willing to try it just for a robot named Hector.
Robot Hector. I'm down with it.
Yeah.
So maybe we will review that at some point.
Yeah.
All right. Let's get into tonight's topic. So, like I said, tonight we are talking about that right there, Disney Star Wars movies. Now, next week on our sidebar, we'll be talking about Disney Star Wars television shows. But tonight we're going to focus solely on the movies. So we'll get into that. So up first, Solo.
Okay. Solo is, I'm going to guess, not your favorite.
Actually, no, it's not the worst.
Okay. I didn't think so either.
I mean, it's a 1A, 1B situation, but for different reasons.
Okay. See, I thought it was just a fun, adventure film set in Star Wars using some existing characters and introducing a few new ones. It was a good time.
Would be accurate.
Yeah.
Most of that would be accurate.
Yeah. Kind of like a long episode of Firefly. Really?
That would be inaccurate.
Okay, well, maybe I was hooked on the train job episode and then having to deal with the crime lord afterward. But, I thought it was...
Okay, I can see that leap. Okay.
Yeah. Honestly, I didn't see this one in theaters. There were 2 other movies that came out the same month that I chose to see instead.
Like most of the world did?
Yeah.
Because it was a crap timing job by Star Wars to put this movie out against Deadpool and Avengers. Because, hey, how could it go wrong?
Yeah, I mean, between that and people still dealing with their feelings about The Last Jedi, it was kind of set up to fail. So, I mean, a lot of people have a negative opinion just because of circumstances.
Yeah,
it has nothing to do with the movie. And that's really the biggest problem with the movie is when it was released. Then there's no John Williams.
This is true.
But it's also not one of the saga movies, so I'm willing to excuse that.
Yeah. I kind of think that if it's not John Williams, then it kind of has to be the Kiner family, but but I'm also willing to excuse it for the same reason that you just did. Yeah. Kathleen says I fell asleep watching Solo. Granzer says I have never seen Solo.
Okay, Kathleen, you fall asleep watching anything.
I was going to say I don't think that's a real fair assessment of the ability of a movie to keep one's attention.
Right.
So, I don't think the movie's not a snooze fest. Kathleen can fall asleep if you just look, you give her 3 seconds and a pillow. So,
yeah, she's one of those can nap anytime, any place.
Oh, look, dark, quiet room. So, yeah.
So, all in all, like you said, it's not my favorite, but I don't dislike it. It's middle of the road for me.
That's where I am now.
Yeah.
So, and we've talked about this before, but my initial reaction to this movie was, this is hot garbage. Mm-hmm. I hated it. Yep. I walked into the theater already kind of on high alert because, as many people know, Harrison Ford is my all-time favorite actor. Han Solo is my favorite character. So to know that it was being played by somebody else, I also understood why they had to do it. I knew why they had to do it. I mean, that was going to be some serious de-aging, and they were struggling with de-aging at that point.
They still are.
I was trying to give them some credit. But even more so then than now. They were struggling with de-aging. And so my other problem is that Harrison Ford's a big dude.
Yeah.
Aldrin Einrich, not a big dude.
Right.
And so there was a lot of visual tricks about where it was like filming the Hobbits. Like they had to have the camera at a certain spot. So to, make these people look really big. And, I just, but I love the fact that I thought Donald Glover as Lando was top tier, amazing. And I would love to see him play Lando many, many more times.
Yes.
And if they could ever get off their backside and decide to either A, make the Lando movie, or B, the Lando television series, I would be greatly appreciative of that.
Right.
I like the inclusion of new characters. I like Dryden Voss as a bad guy. I thought he was a cool villain.
Yeah.
I liked Kira. I always like Woody Harrelson in almost anything he's in.
Mm-hmm.
I have very few movies where I've seen Woody Harrelson where I was like, not for me. But yeah, there was just a lot of little things about this movie that, to me, it wasn't that I left the movie theater going, well, that's not Star Wars, because it was very Star Warsy.
Yes.
Very Star Warsian. However, it just wasn't Harrison Ford. And that was my biggest thing. And it wasn't until probably about a year and a half, 2 years ago that I started looking at it as a space heist pirate style movie.
Right.
And I was like, oh, okay. And I'm actually, so this has gone from being my least favorite of the five to being it's probably number 4 or 5. It's I won't it's not like I go out of my way to watch Solo, but if Solo's on, I'll sit down and watch it.
Yeah.
But it's not like I rush home from work on a bad day and go, I need some Star Wars. Where's that Solo movie?
Right.
It's just not my thing. Let's see. Granzer says, a question I often ask, does the movie have that top movie look or a B movie look where it's sort of raw and unpolished? Honestly, it has a top movie look. It's very nice. And, it visually, the movie is very appealing. It's shot very well. It's directed by Ron Howard. So there's a lot of good things about this movie. There's also a lot of inconsistencies because of the way that Ron Howard came into the film, what he had to work with, the reshoots, everything else. There was a lot of negatives about the Solo movie before it even got off the ground. Let's see. Also, was Solo too late in its making? I would have preferred that, but I don't think that Harrison Ford was really interested in playing more Han Solo by the end of Return of the Jedi. I think he was pretty well done with the character until they backed up the Brinks truck for Force Awakens. He's like, no, I'm not interested. I'm sorry, how much? Yeah, I could die in that movie. Anyway, I will bring that up. That'll come back up later. I need to start reading the Lando book series, which that could be a good TV series if made correctly. I'll be honest with you, I haven't read the book series, so I wouldn't be able to tell you whether or not. But if it's a good story and it has Lando in it and it has Donald Glover as Lando, I'll be okay.
Yeah. When did those books come out? Seems like they're pretty old.
Actually, very good question.
I don't remember off the top of my head.
Tim gives Solo 5 boobers. No, only about three or 4 boobers. This is Tim and John, and we will see you at the movies. I don't read books. I listen to the books. Thank you.
It counts.
Yeah. It was in the 80s and the 90s. Okay. Too many. Yeah. Why use few words when why use many words when few words do trick? Thank you, Kathleen. But yeah, so I think that's Solo. Out of the 5 movies, it's probably number 4 for me.
I was going to put it at 3,
No, I can't.
No? Okay.
No. There's too many there's other movies that belong in that space for me.
My one thing about this was, Star Wars fans who were not familiar with the cartoons because they thought, animation was for kids, were probably a little confused at the end that Darth Maul was still alive.
Also true.
Yeah.
Okay. And so there's been a lot of hubbub around the internet about make Solo 2 happen. I don't know if I'm all on board for a Solo 2 movie, but I wouldn't mind a Solo series or a spin-off to find out what happens with Kira and Darth Maul and the crime syndicate after that. Even if they don't go down the Solo path, I want to know what happened with Kira and Darth Maul.
Yes.
Darth Maul's my favorite villain. When he came on screen, I was like, oh my God, what do you mean we're almost done? This is getting good now.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, Disney kind of owes Amelia Clark after Secret Invasion.
You think?
Oh.
That's a whole nother topic. There comes the indigestion again. 3 Lando Calrissian novels. Okay. Or The Adventures of Lando Calrissian. All 3 novels by L. Neil Smith. Okay. Very cool.
All right.
Awesome. Thank you, Granzer.
Yeah.
All right. So that was Solo.
Yeah.
And here comes the next one. Rogue One.
Beautiful movie. My favorite of the
best of the 5
of what Disney has done. Yeah, because it's a great film that just happens to be set in Star Wars.
Yeah,
unlike Solo, which was a Star Wars movie that
Yeah, I know that they of course they brought in some Vader, which is fine. I'll always take some. That is still the best Vader scene in all of cinema. That hallway scene, just even to this day, I've watched it so many times. I watch YouTube clips of it. Even watching the YouTube clips of it, or when I watch Rogue One again, I'm still, when that comes, I'm like, oh, here it comes. It's going to happen. Here, he's going to do the thing, and then he just goes bonkers on people, and I love it.
Yeah,
and I love the fact that he's standing in mid space where there is no wind and his cape is flapping in the breeze.
Yeah, he's using the Force to make his cape billow because he's just that dramatic.
Anakin is dramatic. Which is fine. It's not fine, Tim. It's a masterpiece. It is a masterpiece of movies. That is for sure.
It's not perfect.
No,
but the deepfake technology was definitely lacking then.
Everybody made a big deal about Tarkin. I thought Tarkin was actually pretty decent. So he's a little robotic and plasticky in some spots. But I don't know what else they're going to do with trying to bring back a dead character.
Yeah. That's one of those spots where I think recasting would have been a better option. Personally, my opinion, you don't have to agree.
The hallway scene is perfect. Yes, it is. Absolutely. I only have a problem with that only because Grand Moff Tarkin is even though he has a small role in the movies, he is such a recognizable role and such a recognizable face and voice that somebody would have to really work on their Peter Cushing to be Grand Moff Tarkin. It couldn't be just like, hey, we're going to get Billy Bob the janitor here. He gonna be Grand Moff Tarkin today. Go ahead, give him the line. Ben Mendelsohn was awesome. Yeah, absolutely. I loved him in this movie. He played the perfect. I want to be the bad guy, but I don't have the chutzpah to be the bad guy, and I love that about him.
Yeah,
that he's trying so hard and failing so miserably in some spots. So. The only thing I didn't like was the AI for Grand Moff Tarkin and Princess Leia. The Princess Leia one I had a hard time with. The Tarkin I didn't really bother me, but Leia at the end was a little rough. Although I was willing to overlook it just because the way that they married up the end of Rogue One to the beginning of A New Hope, and watching those two movies back to back is just perfect synergy. Yeah. So. There's just not enough good things for me to say about Rogue One.
Yeah, and even though it wasn't trying to be, I mean, other than Vader in the last minute, there's no lightsabers. There's minimal use of the Force. Except for when Vader's being saucy. Don't choke on your aspirations, that kind of thing. But it still added the Guardians of the Whills as a story concept, which I thought was really cool.
The Force is with me.
Right, because it's not just Jedi and Sith, but there are other perspectives you can look at, which is a thing Disney did a lot in the movies.
Some would even call those threads. Anyway, we'll talk about that next week. Anyway, I'm just trying to cause ruckus.
Yeah. Oh my.
Yeah, but there's real honestly, and I love the fact that we have the show Andor, which we're going to talk about next week as well, and how this has led up into everything that we see in Rogue One, and it's just this whole storyline around Cassian Andor, wonderful. Yeah. Rogue One is how a franchise does a prequel, absolutely, yes. Or an example of how to do a it's how a franchise does a sequel for sure, sure. So I have other than the only thing I would have liked to have seen you talked about recasting for Tarkin.
Yeah,
I would have liked to have seen them recast Leia using her daughter Billy Lord, because Billy looks so much like her mother at that point that it would have been a little bit of makeup. It would have been fine.
Right.
But that's just me.
Yeah.
So, but I also understand the not wanting to recast Leia, because this is also around the time that, I think it was around the time when we lost Carrie Fisher too. So,
that wasn't until after Last Jedi.
I thought those came out at the same time.
I'll
have to look it up.
Somewhere there I became a parent too, so things are really fuzzy.
Oh, understood. Yeah, I get that. And then, Rogue One, much like Empire Strikes Back, the good guys do not win per se. Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah. The good guys don't always have to win for it to be a good movie.
Sometimes it's better when they don't.
Yeah, absolutely. It gives the good guys something to fight for in future movies and future shows and things like that.
Yeah.
And this is another movie where I thought that they did a good job of incorporating some maybe the more outside characters. And if you weren't familiar, again, if you didn't watch Star Wars animation, you had no idea who Saw Gerrera was. Right. So that didn't matter to you. But to have Forrest Whitaker play Saw Gerrera, great. I thought he did a good job.
Oh yeah,
played him nice and crazy. Like, I did appreciate that. Just Saw is a mess by the time we see him in this movie.
Yep.
And there's just enough Star Wars things around for it to tie in nicely and say, okay, this is definitely in the Star Wars world, but it's not reliant upon major Star Wars characters to carry it. And I thought that's what it did so well.
Yeah. And K2SO is absolutely hilarious. He may be my favorite droid.
Yeah. I find that answer vague and unconvincing.
Him and HK-47. I mean, it's kind of a tie.
I absolutely love using that line when people give me an answer that I don't like. I'm sorry, but I find that answer vague and unconvincing.
Yeah. And, Jyn Erso, incredibly strong female character on the same level as Leia. No complaints there.
Yep.
The supporting male cast was okay. They were there.
They did a good job.
Yeah.
Did a good job. Yeah. So, for the most part, no notes. Well done. Got a good show. 5 blasters of happiness. I don't know what to call it, but yeah. Here we go.
5 out of 5.
5 out of 5. 5 lightsabers. Okay. Next, we move into The Force Awakens. We're going into the trilogies, the sequel trilogy now.
Okay. Do you want to go first?
So this is my number 2 movie.
Okay.
Out of the franchise, out of the Disney era. So number 1 is Rogue One. Number 2 is Force Awakens. Now it's Force Awakens for one big reason. I hadn't been that excited to go to see a Star Wars movie since, or Star Wars anything since Revenge of the Sith. And I was just, there's so many throwback feels in Force Awakens to A New Hope. And yes, it does mirror it in a lot of ways, but that's also kind of what Star Wars does. I know people are like, oh, it's just shot for shot. It's basically A New Hope. Well, there's a reason for that.
It's supposed to rhyme, but
Star Wars rhymes, and the prequels match up the energy with the original trilogy, and there's the introduction, the rise of the bad guys, the fall of and it's the same thing, boom, 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 and so we're seeing that in all 3 stages there with each movie. But there's so many things about this that I liked. I'm a big Rey Skywalker fan. And yes, she is a Skywalker. That's how adoption works. And I loved where I thought we were going with Finn in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
I loved FN 2187. I thought he was a really good character, and I love the fact that they were bringing back the classic characters. We saw, we had the new droid. We had BB-8, but we knew that R2D2 was around there somewhere. We saw C-3PO and his red arm. We saw we had Leia, we had Han, we had Chewie. There's copious amounts of the Millennium Falcon, and it just all the vintage throwback feels of Chewie, we're home. Goosebumps still every time.
That was great.
Yeah.
See, you mentioned 3PO's red arm, and he says, "You're probably wondering how I got this. Well, it's an interesting story," and we never hear it. And then Maz Kanata's like, "So how I got this lightsaber is a great story for another time."
We never hear it.
Too much of that.
Yeah.
For me, it's like, okay, don't bring it up if you're not going to tell me.
Right. It needs to be brought up at some, if you're going to bring it up, you gotta close that loop. That, however, is also a J.J. Abrams speciality.
Oof.
As Siths are Obi-Wan's speciality, unanswered questions are J.J. Abrams' speciality. And and lens flares. And so he nailed both of those.
Yeah.
No wokeness. Oh boy. That's a whole nother story. Let's see. I could not watch The Force Awakens. I got snipped on the plot, and then it appealed to me at all. I gave that movie a B, but in a bad way. I'd honestly, Granger, I'd say go back and give it a try. Just watch it with an open mind. There's been a lot written about it, a lot said about it, a lot of boys who can't take a strong female character, so they have a problem with Rey.
And since we're talking about her,
sure, go ahead.
Okay, so she's the equivalent of Luke in this trilogy, right?
Yep.
And so in A New Hope, we have Biggs telling us that Luke is the best bush pilot in the Outer Rim. We see, but we don't see it.
Mm-hmm.
We actually see Rey fight and fly and do all these things.
They set the table.
Right. Rather than just being told, oh, they're great at that. She actually demonstrates her skills that she's acquired as this scavenger surviving on the fringe.
I've known this old guy for 20 minutes. I'm going to put on this visor and do really cool Jedi things.
Right.
Yeah. She didn't have to do that. So, I mean, yeah, there's a lot of reasons why Rey is actually a very good character. There's reasons why she's well written. But there are some plot holes with her. I'm not going to deny that.
Yeah.
But there are also plot holes all through the but the sequel trilogy. Well, there's some back in the prequels as well. And the originals. Let's see. Some said she was too pretty to be the lead. You guys were falling in lust rather than enjoying the sci-fi. Yeah, they did the same thing with Carrie Fisher, and if they tell you any different, they're lying.
Yeah.
Because all I'm going to say is Carrie Fisher, metal bikini. Thank you, and I'm that. Those are my closing arguments. It's not. It's actually honestly, it's not that. That's just. I don't see it as awkward, but I understand where you're coming from. But I would say go back and give it a watch because it does set the table for not only for what we're going to watch in the rest of the sequel trilogy, but eventually what's going to come with the next trilogy of Star Wars movies with Rey and being, the new Jedi Academy and everything else. So it's actually an important place setter for what we're getting, for what we have and everything else. But for me, for a lot of sentimental reasons, and this is the last time, it's not actually the last time, but it's really should have been the last time that we saw Harrison Ford as Han Solo. This movie to me is number 2 of the 5.
And on that point, Kylo Ren is one of the most vile characters in the franchise because of this movie.
Oh, emo with a glow stick.
Yeah.
Like Star Trek Voyager, watched it for 7 of 9, not because of the plot.
Okay, that's fair.
Trying to find an argument with that one, and both John and I are failing.
Yeah.
But she's pretty. But I don't think we're in a 7 of 9 category. Not that and that sounds demeaning, and I don't mean it to be that way.
Yeah.
I think one is prettier than the other, but that's just my personal preference.
Yeah.
For the record, how do I say this without sounding messed up? I am fine with lead film. It was a storyline that just seemed awkward.
Yeah.
The story seems okay. So here's the thing with the story. In A Force Awakens, the story meanders. Okay, it does. It kind of hops around a lot. Again, with a J.J. Abrams movie, television show, his stories tend to hop around a lot, leave a lot of loops unclosed, a lot of questions unanswered, and that's kind of his storytelling motif. If you don't believe me, go back and watch Alias. Go back and watch Lost.
Please no.
Lost is the worst out of the two, but you see what I'm saying. There's a lot of that style of storytelling, and he does the same thing with movies. Even the Star Trek movies are very much the same way that he did. So
yeah,
but yeah,
probably my biggest complaint is that they changed the ending for Rian Johnson, because originally Luke was supposed to have rocks levitating around himself when Rey finds him, and they took those out.
Shocker.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which leads into my problems with Last Jedi.
You rang?
Yeah. So because of that, Last Jedi had to pick up from the minute Force Awakens ended. So whereas in all the other movies, trilogies, we had these couple year gaps in between so the characters could grow and change and be interesting again. We
literally went from handoff to handoff.
Right. So we lost that potential for character growth. I think the movie suffers more than a little bit for that.
For sure. However, it also has one of the best fight scenes in all of Star Wars, throne room scene with for Snoke.
Yeah. It's not perfect.
Guard. It's not perfect, no, but it's really cool. Yeah, I will argue that till I'm blue in the face. A lot of people are like, oh, that movie's so boring. Even the lightsaber battles are horrible. I'm like, you clearly didn't watch the throne room scene.
There are enough gaps in the duel in Phantom Menace to make up for this. It's fine. We're good.
Yeah. So this is my number 3 movie.
Okay.
In the series. I have one massive problem with this and 2 minor problems.
Okay.
So the massive problem is that we have no clue who Snoke is, where he comes from, how he got here, what's going on with him. He's the big bad and he's killed in the middle of the movie.
Yeah.
And so,
I love that.
I don't.
Okay.
Because okay, so even with the original trilogy, you have a sense, an understanding of who the big bads are, how they kind of got there. Vader became this person because he was twisted and tormented by the dark side to become this person. He was tricked by the Emperor. All these different things. And so we have a sense of where we got to, why we got to there. All we start off with is, hey, there's this guy with this jacked up looking head, in a really big Superman style hologram in this big room over here.
The Emperor?
No, that would be Snoke.
Oh, okay, just checking.
Yeah. But hey, yeah, that actually fits for both of them. And then all of a sudden he's killed. Yeah. And we have no explanation of where he came from, what happened, how Kylo Ren came to be in his service, how the Knights of Ren got there, Rian Johnson was doing his best J.J. Abrams impression to not answer all these questions, to leave all these things open and just kind of go, well, we'll leave it up to J.J. in the next movie. We'll see what happens.
Well, it wasn't supposed to be J.J. in the next movie.
Correct. Ryan was supposed to direct it, and I still can't remember if he backed out or if they backed him out and brought J.J. back.
Colin, what was his last name? Like, there was a script and everything, had totally different ending.
Right. Well, it was supposed to be, and then Rian Johnson was going to do it, and then he couldn't do it, so then they went back to J.J.
Yeah.
And, it kind of just turned into two boys standing on the porch having a measuring contest as to who's bigger, better. And so that's my big problem with Last Jedi. My minor problems and things that I can easily overcome and don't stop me from watching the movie.
Mm-hmm.
I hate it when Leia Mary Poppins back into the ship. I know that they needed it to show that she was in control of her force powers. I get that, but I think there's other ways they could have done it. I just didn't like that.
See, I would have taken that as an opportunity to just kill Leia's character since the actress was dead. Maybe do some reshoots to tie that up a little bit.
That would have been the perfect ending.
And that would make Kylo incredibly evil, responsible for the deaths of both of his parents.
Yeah.
That would have been a more interesting development. Granzer's never seen The Last Jedi. Gave me the Force Awakens vibes. Yeah, I can see that. I mean,
it's pretty much just a continuation of the story.
Yeah.
And there's some other things attached to it. And I've commented on this before too. I also didn't like the that he was the Lorax from, come back tomorrow, the Onceler from the Lorax. Come back tomorrow and I'll tell you more about the Force that Luke was. Well, the old man in the I didn't like that either. But
yeah, I mean, I can kind of understand why he was this grumpy old hermit, because if he was connected to the Force and aware of what was going on, there's no reason he wouldn't have been off helping Leia.
Right.
Right. So because he didn't show up in The Force Awakens, we needed a reason why.
Nope. And I understand all of that. I just don't like how they did him.
Right.
I don't have a problem with Luke's death when people are like, oh, that was so out of character for him. Actually, no, it's not. Go back and rewatch the movies. You missed Luke's character in the OG trilogy. It's not out of character for him to die the way, do all the things. So I don't have a problem with that.
I mean, his two teachers both did we got outsmarted by the dark side. Let's go hide somewhere.
So what else was he going to do? Because that's what the people who taught him showed him how to do.
Yeah. The one thing I do disagree with you on, though, is the death of Snoke, Kylo killing him off, because we had never seen the basically the rule of two happen in real time like that. We had never seen the dark side transfer of power, the apprentice becoming the master. So I thought that was cool.
Okay, I've never looked at it as from the rule of two vibe, because although he has a red saber, I never got clarification that the Knights of Ren were attached to the Sith.
No, but I mean the concept being similar.
So from that aspect, that you're right. Okay, so that is cool.
Yeah,
to see that. Because we never saw that in the original trilogy. Yes, Vader kills, finishes off the Emperor, but that's a whole different process.
Completely.
He wasn't killing him to assume control. He was killing him to go back to the light side. That's different.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's kind of where I'm at on that movie. I enjoy it now. I used to really have a bigger problem with it. But I do enjoy this movie now, and I will voluntarily sit down and watch it and enjoy it.
Yeah. I mean, I still think Phasma was vastly underused in these movies.
Agreed. And by the way, the Holdo maneuver, one of the coolest shots in all of cinematic history.
Yes. What's his name? Daniel Green on TikTok has a wonderful video explaining why that works.
Yes, he does. I've seen that, and it is very good. Just that whole that couple seconds of absolutely quiet audio in the movie theater.
Yeah.
And the big flash of light and everything that's happening was very much shiny.
I think I like the only silence in Star Wars.
Yeah. There's always something going on otherwise.
Yeah. But for me, this is my second place movie. I like, it's not perfect. I've obviously got problems with it. But, I thought it was a brilliant, open-ended conclusion. So many possibilities they could have gone with. It's too bad they didn't make any more movies after this.
But they did. This one I actually put in last place for a reason. This is the number 5 of the 5. There was so much potential for this movie. There are so many issues that I have with this movie. And it extends far beyond somehow Palpatine returned. which I know why they had to do what they did, because they killed off Snoke. They had to have a big bad for
Kylo.
Kylo should have been the big bad. He should have been. Emperor should have been nowhere near any of this. Because now we've had to retcon Project Necromancer into a bunch of different other topics. Again, a topic for next week. But there's so many issues I have with this. And again, this goes far beyond the fact that they were riding horses on top of spaceships in outer space. We're also not going to talk about that, but that's a problem. It just, okay. There's a lot of little issues with this movie, and it's the culmination of the misuse of Finn's character, and it doesn't get any better in this movie. And I would not blame John Boyega if he'd never suited up for another Star Wars movie, but I wish that he would, because I would love to see Finn get redemption and get an actual storyline, because we had a beautiful setup in The Force Awakens for his character, where he could have gone, even if he wasn't going to become a Jedi, even if he was not going to be Force sensitive, which it really kind of thought he was going to be at the end of that movie. Even if they didn't go to that, there was still a lot of areas where they could have had a good storyline and a lot of things happening for John Boyega and Finn, but it just gets overlooked and underused for the rest of the, Yeah. Riding horses in a sci-fi when your budget is so vast. It's not that they were riding horses. I don't have a problem with the horses, Garanzier. I have a problem with the fact that they were riding horses on top of a spaceship in outer space. Yeah. That's just, but yeah, there's cool things about this movie too, though. We get to see force healing, which we had never seen on film before.
Right. I mean, it's in all the video games.
It is in the video games, but we've never seen it in a movie. And so to be able to see force healing in the movie, and then it got used not only once, but twice, but 3 times, I was like, okay, we get the point. You know how to force heal.
Right.
I did like what they started tapping into in The Last Jedi with the force connection and with this dyad of Rey and Kylo, and then being able to talk to one another, see the location where each other was at, what they were doing, and carrying that through. I thought that was kind of cool, and how it led in. I thought that added to the story nicely for the interactions between Rey and Kylo.
Right.
Yeah.
See,
Okay. So yeah, I would have probably walked out when I seen that.
Honestly, I didn't see this one in the theater. Something about having a 1-year-old. I was busy. Couldn't find a babysitter, so I could take my wife to see it with me.
There's that.
Yeah. So,
but I don't have a lot of good things to say about this movie either.
John Williams never disappoints.
Yeah. Okay. John Williams knocked it out of the park with a score because he's John freaking Williams.
Mm-hmm.
But past that, I really don't have much good to say about the movie. I want to have good things to say about the movie. I will say that. Okay, so I will say this we said that it would have been nice to have Leia killed off in The Last Jedi, but since they didn't do that, the way that they sent her off with the funeral scene in The Rise of Skywalker is beautiful to me, and I think very well done.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
So, well, it didn't really save John from the movie. He just had to watch it later. He just didn't see it in the theater. It saved a couple bucks for him, maybe, but that was about it.
Oh yeah, just watch it on Disney Plus.
So yeah, it saved him, like $40.
Yeah.
So,
but I
actually hasn't seen this one either.
You
got some movie watching to do, buddy.
I like where Rey ends up in this movie.
Me too.
At the end, because originally she wanted to find out who her family was, and then she was told she was nobody, and then she found out she's related to the most evil people in the galaxy. But she found this other family in the Resistance, and found family's a big thing in Star Wars.
Huge, yeah.
And so she chose that family over her actual grandfather, and wanted to move on without being held back by who and what he was.
Yeah.
So really that concept of choosing your own destiny being the master of your own fate. I think that's really cool.
I do too. That's one of the things I actually like. That was one of the high points of the movie. The fact that Luke and Leia gave her the smile and nod of acceptance when she said that she was Rey Skywalker, that that she was being adopted into the family right there. She chose the Skywalker name. She could have stuck with I'm Rey from nowhere. She could have said, well, no, I'm a Palpatine, and that's just all there is to it. But she chose Rey Skywalker, and then she got the nod of approval. So I do like that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I dug that.
All right, carry on. Hold on.
Wait, what happened? Where'd Tim go? Anyway, yeah, so he just disappears on me. I love when this happens. Kylo Ren really was robbed of his character development. He had made so much progress, and he starts killing his dad, trying to kill his mom.
I'm back. Let's go on.
And then killing his master, but then, oh well, I'm just gonna be Palpatine's not really puppet, sort of. I don't know. He felt very wishy-washy in this to me.
Yeah.
Kind of.
At the end of Last Jedi, I was like, okay, so maybe he is ready to take the reins and be the bad guy, and he's going to let his hate of Luke Skywalker and that whole scene of more, and he's really just diving into the hate. I was like, okay, maybe we're going to go something where this in episode 9. Then it was like, nope, I'm going to take my shirt off. I'm going to flex my pectorals, and I'm going to talk to my dyad and be all kinds of 17 shades of wishy-washy. Maybe I'll be good. Maybe I'll be bad. Okay, I'll be good. So.
The extreme close-up.
Whoa! So.
From a certain point of view, Wayne's World was the first video podcast.
Yes, it was. From a certain point of view.
We've all stolen that idea.
Wayne's World. It's wild. A movie I see that's going to come out and it's going to turn around and it's not in theaters any longer. So.
Yeah. I mean, in the turnaround time, it used to be you had to wait a couple months for it to be on VHS or DVD. And then
now you sneeze and it's out on Blu-ray. It's out on Blu-ray and digital. And
a month after it was in the theaters, you can rent it for $20. And if you wait a few more weeks, you can just watch it on whatever streaming service you're already paying for.
Right. They just happened to buy the rights to it.
Mm-hmm.
So,
or, if it's Disney owned or whoever owns it, it just shows up there.
All right. So real quick, John, go back through your top 5. What are your 5 in order?
Best to worst?
Yeah, best to worst.
Okay. Rogue One, Last Jedi, Solo, Force Awakens, and Rise of Skywalker in last place.
Okay. So mine, we got a couple similar spots, but that's about it. I think first and last, everything else is jumbled up in the middle. So Rogue One, number 1, Force Awakens, number 2, Last Jedi, number 3, Solo, number 4, and Rise of Skywalker being the worst of the bunch.
Yeah. And I mean, if we had time and this was a different topic for the night, we could talk about the ways that I would try to fix these movies, the sequel trilogy, but that's a whole nother thing.
That's another sidebar.
Oh yeah.
That's definitely going to
more than Dragon's Milk.
Yes. There will be much bourbon consumed that night. Granzier says, I loved Wayne's World. Still have the Wayne's World Plus. Oh, nice. The Taco Bell cups.
Nice.
I remember those. I do remember those. All right. And I think that's going to be all, folks. I think that wraps it up for us. So if you have differing opinions on what we talked about tonight, we of course would love to, we've been talking with folks in the comments all night tonight. But if you're watching this later and you have differing opinions on any of the topics that we covered, any of the opinions we shared, let us know down in the comments down below. We'd love to hear your comments. We'd love to hear your thoughts. And, we'll continue the conversation with you there. But yeah, and then as a reminder, yesterday, not only here on YouTube, but also on your favorite audio podcast provider, we released our interview with Kirsten Vangsness, who plays Penelope Garcia on Criminal Minds. So if you haven't had a chance to go check that out, go do it, because Kirsten is amazing and we really enjoyed her. And she made me guffaw more than once. I guffawed. Oh, guffaw. Yeah. And on that note, I think that I might need to go find myself a pillow because I'm tired and I want to go to bed. And basically, it's a week, like we said earlier, it's a week full of Mondays. And my Monday is all Mondayed up. So,
yeah, Monday part 4 just not treating you well, eh?
No. So we're going to call it a night. But like I said, if you have thoughts about our stuff, put it in the comments down below. And if you haven't, by the way, if you haven't already, please click like and subscribe. That helps our show continue to grow and get amazing guests for our weekly interviews and our Monday night live shows where you can do more than listen to John and I pontificate about things that you've already watched. So on that note, may the force continue to be with you as you live long and prosper. Goodbye.
Copyright 2025 FSF PopCast. Reference any specific product or entity mentioned on this podcast does not constitute an endorsement or recommendation by FSF PopCast. The views expressed by guests are their own, and their appearance on the program does not imply an endorsement of them or any entity they represent. If you have any questions about this disclaimer, please contact us via email at info@fsfpopcast.com.